Well, now that we've seen a little bit about working with F5, the little brush window that we have here, you can always press F5 to activate and deactivate that one. And now that we've seen a little bit about how, well, some of these work, let's take a look at some of the brushes that you can actually load. So I'm going to press B for my brushes again, and if you right click one more time, you'll remember that we have the options that we see here, and as we saw, there are only a few of those that are available in the basic ones that we have here. And there's some very interesting ones and quite nice things that you can do with them. However, I'm just going to show you that by clicking on this area here, this little triangle, what you can do is load a number of other brushes. Now, as you'll see, if I just, for example, go to the assorted brushes here, it'll ask you whether or not you want to append, which means to add to the existing set of brushes that you have here. And if you choose yes, you'll keep these brushes and add a bunch to them. I'm going to keep things simple just by saying OK, which does not append. It got rid of all the other brushes, and now we just have a number of brushes here. And as you can see, here I'm in white, so I'm going to press black. As you can see here, these ones are just empty sort of brushes, and you can click on any one of these and you can make them bigger or do whatever you want, or make a slinky effect or something along those lines. It's really up to you. Command delete. I'm gonna just make that white again, and as you can see here, there are all kinds of crazy sort of brushes that you can use. Command delete one more time, and I'm going to show you that you can also add, again, the basic brushes, or if you come in here, there are calligraphic brushes. What are the difference between calligraphic brushes and the round brushes? Well, you'll see that it's squeezed in, and if you'll notice, when you're working with something that is squeezed in like that, and for example here I'll use something that's a little larger, what it ends up doing is it'll give you more thick and thin transitions in your areas. See, so there are going to be thick areas and there are going to be thin areas depending on what you're doing. And even if it's just a little bit, you'll see that it still has, a little bit of information in there that will be thick and thin. So those transitions will in fact be thick and thin. So you'll see there's thicker areas, thinner areas when you're working with those calligraphic brushes. However, there are some other brushes that we can take a second to look at. There's DP brushes, as you can see here, which are kind of strange when you're looking at them right like this, but that can be a very nice little branchy element that you can use, and it could be something that you could still make smaller, and as you can see there, you'll have like smaller branch work. I wouldn't necessarily brush this in a stroke like that, although if that's something you're looking for, go ahead, not a problem. However, there are some other ones in here. This is pretty weird and wild, and I just clicked once. I didn't drag it or anything like that, which wouldn't really make a lot of sense. Command delete. I'll just fill that up. Let's see what else we've got. Natural brushes actually look like, as you might imagine, sort of a different kind of brush stroke. And as you'll see here, they're meant to sort of emulate different types of brushes that exist. Notice here you got watercolor, watercolor 3. See that? And if you were to choose maybe something like this, you'd see what that actually ends up doing for you. So, like I said, I encourage you to experiment with the different experiment with the different brushes. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of brushes that are available to you. You just have to load them. Here's some thick brushes. See that? Wow, that's really a nice sort of look, if in fact you are going for something that is rather distressed, as this one ends up being. So again, it's really all a matter of how you want to address these brush strokes, how you want them to look, and what you want them to do inside of your design. Now remember, brushes and which brushes you're loading are really all about specific job you're using them for. So whether you have a hard edge or a soft edge, remember we've been using masking with brushes, doing a lot of different things like that as well, and all of these are really wonderful. If you wanted to be working with some brush work and stuff like that, all you'd really have to do is to place them on their own individual layers, and then you could color in and do just about anything that you want to. So for example, if I were to come back here and I wanted to reset all of the originals, just go back to Reset Brushes, click OK, and then you've got all of those basic ones that you had to work with originally. So right here, you can come in here and you'll notice when you click on one of these, you can perhaps even see that there is this little brush that's showing you exactly what that brush looks like and how it works when you will work with it. And if I press Command Delete, I can delete all of that. And let's say I wanted to, come in here and just create a small little character of sorts. And if I were to come in here and put in some ears or something like that, notice this is all being done on the background layer. I shouldn't really do that. If I wanted to draw something, I would, put in the black areas right around here. And, depending on what kind of element you want to have. Yeah, some crazy, crazy sort of creature. You can do that just directly in here. And based on what you've done, whether or not you've done a good job, and this is rather rudimentary, notice all you really have to do is to create a layer that's underneath the other one, and then you can go back to, painting and doing some colors inside of here. Now, certainly I could come in here and I can choose a color like, one of these soft colors here. And if I wanted to start coloring in on this, remember what layer you're on. I'm on the underlying layer. So all you'd really have to do is to, click in here, make your colors larger if you wish. Notice I'm on the underlying layer, so that's great. It sort of fits in quite nicely with what I want to do. And I could just come in here. And don't worry so much about going outside. Look, I've gone outside on purpose there. And even in a couple of other areas. And let's say you did sort of like this the way it is here, you can always switch to the eraser tool. So you see E for eraser, and you could come in here and you could just erase some of those colors that are going outside the lines. If you don't want them there, you can just erase them, come in here and do your work like that. Nice and easy. And on top of that, you could do any number of other things with this and choose different colors. But I'm going to show you a little bit about choosing some colors when we come back in our next exercise.